Hi, this is the SB200 machine, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set it up, how to operate it, and if it requires it, how to sort out any problems that you might have. The machine comes in a box, so everything you need is inside the box, with the exception of the fluid. Undo the catches, pop open the lid. We've got a set of instructions, and there's a list on the instructions of what's in the box, but I'm going to show you that anyway. We have a hand controller, the remote control. We have a gun. The gun is for generating the snow. We have a hose. There's about 15 metres of this hose. It's quite a lot. So we'll take this completely out of the box. Okay. Now, we have this fluid line, which is for attaching the drum of fluid to the machine. We have a power cable fitted with a Euro C-form 16 amp plug, and for those people that don't have the C-form connection, we've got this adapter. So this just plugs straight on the end here, like that, and then you can go straight into a 3-pin standard plug socket. So if you check to make sure you've got all the parts, and if you find anything's missing at all, then please contact us straight away so that we can get a replacement part out to you. Now the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is to connect the hose to the machine. If you take this end of the hose, at this end of the machine you've got a little hatch that you can open. Pass the hose through the hatch, and inside you will find that there's an air connection for the large hose, the fluid connection for this one, and a power socket, and this is the heater that's embedded inside the hose, which will stop it freezing in sub-zero temperatures. Fairly straightforward. The air hose goes in and you click down the two levers. You then take the fluid line and that just pops into the quick release connection. Nice firm clip there to make sure that it's in. Remove the dust cap from the power connection for the heater, and then in it goes. It only goes one way around, so don't try and force it. Click down the lock and that's all ready and done. So having done that, the next thing we're going to do is connect the fluid tank. Separately from your machine, you will have a 20-litre drum of snow fluid. We recommend that you only use snow business snow fluid in our machines. If you use any other types of snow fluid, that may cause problems with the machine and we will have to try and clean it out, and so we'd rather you use the proper fluid. Pop that inside, undo the top, and then take the fluid line, drop it into the tank and screw it on nice and firmly. To help the machine get the fluid from the drum into the machine, you've got this little device here, which is just a little hand pump. And if you squeeze that a few times, you'll find that fluid is pumped into the line. So what you can do to make your life easier is pump a little bit of fluid in there like this, so it just comes out at the end. Put your finger over the end, and then down in the machine here, to the left of the fluid out connection that we've just connected, you'll see there's a little blue connector, and what you do is you take your pipe and you push it in nice and firmly. Now you might spill a little bit of fluid into the bottom of the machine while you're doing that, but don't worry too much about that. But try, if you can, not to spray it everywhere, because we don't want it getting on the electrical connections. Okay, so that's all fitted, and that part of the assembly is now done. The next thing we need to do is to connect the power connector. So that goes out through the hatch, and then once you've done that, you can either connect it to a standard European 3-pin connection, or if you've got a Euro C-form connection, then you can just plug that in as well. So the last thing we have to do is connect the air line to the gun. So this is the fluid line, and we're just going to push that in there nice and firmly. Make sure it's in nice and tight, otherwise it may leak. And then the air line goes on like that, and then the two little clips just clip up like that. if you've got to force them, if it doesn't work easily, then something's wrong. So it's usually that the fluid line or the heater cable inside has got a bit tangled up. So take it apart, adjust it, put it back together again. Don't ever force it. Okay, so now that's all connected, and the next thing we're going to do is look at the controls of the SB200 and how to operate the machine. Okay, so next we're going to connect the hand timer controller. The 6-pin connector goes into the connection remote. It won't fit in the booster, it's a different connection. So we pop it in there, I've twisted around a bit, and then screw down the bezel. We'll make sure that the timer controller is in the off position. That's the 24/7 timer controller over here on this one. And then we also make sure that the hand controller is in the off position, which is the center position on the switch. And now we're going to power it on. So the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to use the controller. The switch at the bottom here has 3 positions. If we switch it into the manual position, the machine will start to run. We can control the fan speed here, and we can also control the flake size here. Turn it off. So that's the sort of basic operation. Now then, the timer controller also has a timer function, and to set that we push the timer controller switch over to this side. Now you say it says twist to set, so if we twist this knob, it goes into the set run time. So the first setting is how many seconds we want the machine to be on. We can change the seconds by turning the knob left or right. So I'm going to set it for 0. If we push the knob, it advances to minutes. We will set the on time for 1 minute, again by twisting the knob. So we've got 59 back, 1 minute. Push it again, and then it asks for how many hours we want. And in this instance, I'm not going to set it at hours. So we push the button again, and now it asks for the cycle time. Now the cycle time is the full amount of time for one cycle. So let's say we want 1 minute of snow every 4 minutes. If I set seconds first of all to 0, push the button, and now minutes to 4, it's now going to start in 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Off it goes. Now, you can see runtime is counting down, and what the machine has done, it's also worked out that if we want 1 minute every 4 minutes, the amount of time the machine needs to be off is 3 minutes, and that's here in this bottom section. You can see there 3 minutes. So when that gets to 0, it will then pause for 3 minutes, and then it will start again. Now the interesting thing with this timer controller is it remembers the last program. So if for some reason the machine is switched off, which we've done here, that will go out, that fades out. The next time we turn the machine on again, provided this is still in the timer position, it will reload the timing cycle, and after a pause of 5 seconds, it will start again. If we want to stop that from happening, we can turn the timer off. If at any time we want to reset the timer, push it across to timer, and within 5 seconds, just twist the knob, and we can reset it again to whatever we want. We could have a maximum of 99 hours on and 99 hours off if we wanted to. But it's more common to have the machine running for, say, a minute every 5 minutes or 2 minutes every 10 minutes or whatever. So the SB200 Winter is also equipped with full DMX512 control. Here we have the DMX address selector switch, which is behind this little plastic cover, and you'll need a Phillips screwdriver to remove that so you can set the dip switch settings. We have DMX in and DMX out, and these are 5-pin connectors, so if you're using the old 3-pin style connector, you'll need an adapter. Now this machine can be patched in just the same way as you would connect a light to a lighting rig, and it can work perfectly happy between 2 lights in a DMX wiring situation. The one thing that you will have to remember is that there isn't a personality, or you won't find any personality files for this machine. You'll have to edit one yourself. The SB200 Winter has 4 channels of control. The first channel is on-off, so above 50% or 127 bits you will need, the machine will come on, and below that it will be off. The second channel controls the fan speed, and that's 0 to 100 or 0 to 255, and then the third channel controls the flake size or the pump, and again that's 0 to 100% or 0 to 255. The fourth channel isn't used on this machine, but it is reserved. So if you're setting up a lighting patch, remember to allow 4 channels for this machine to operate. So the final method of controlling this machine is with a 24/7 timer controller. The timer controller is enabled using this switch on and off, and if you've asked for a specific timing sequence, it will have been preset and pre-programmed by us before the machine leaves snow business. What this timer allows you to do is, say you want snow to come on at lunchtime on Wednesday and go off at 9 o'clock at Wednesday night, we can set the machine to actually switch on at lunchtime and go off at 9 o'clock. You will still need to use it in conjunction with the hand timer, and what I would suggest you do is set a suitable on-off sequence on here, get that going, make sure that you're happy with the snow, and then switch the timer on. The machine will stop working, but when the 24/7 timer is enabled at the pre-programmed time slot, then this timer controller will take over, and the machine will cycle backwards and forwards, doing, say, it's 1 minute every 4 minutes, until this timer switches itself off, and then the machine will stop. If you need to change this, then just let us know, and we can send a dongle out to you with instructions on how to change the pre-programmed timing sequence. The only 2 remaining things to talk about are the booster socket, and this socket will control the SB200 booster if you've hired one. You plug in the booster's remote cable here, again just pop it in and screw down the bezel, and then what happens is that whenever the machine's pump is turned above 5%, the booster will be fired up, and it will run, and it will run the booster. Next to the booster cable here you can see this little LED, and this is the green status light. If everything's fine with the machine, it should just be solid green. If however this light starts to flash, it indicates that the fluid has either run out, or for whatever reason the fluid is not getting into the machine. To reset the light, turn the controller to the off position and back on again, and you'll get another 30 seconds then to try and get some fluid into the machine. You can do that by pumping the hand pump here to force fluid into the machine, or if you've actually run out of fluid, then you'll need to put another drum on and go through the sequence of connecting the fluid and getting the fluid into the machine again. Hopefully when it's working and making snow, the little green status light will be in its solid always on condition. The other thing to mention is that the SB200 Winter is protected against frost. At the rear of the machine we have a heater element which will heat the inside of the box, and we also have a heater element that runs up inside of the air hose to stop the fluid line from freezing. Now the heater is completely automatic, you don't have to touch any of that, it will all come on below 2 degrees centigrade to keep the machine warm. But one thing that is very important, the heaters will only operate if the machine is powered on. So please at night don't turn the machine off, otherwise you'll come to use it in the morning, it may well be frozen solid, and that will cause the machine some damage. So just once it's plugged in, leave it switched on, and then it will be protected against frost, down to about -7 degrees centigrade. So when you're operating the machine, there may be a couple of problems that you come across. By far and away, the most likely issue you'll have is that the machine is not drawing fluid properly from its barrel. If you look at the line and you can see fluid in it, it's probably okay. But what can happen is this pipe can become kinked very easily if it's trapped, and that will stop the fluid flowing. It's also very important that when you first set the machine up that you make sure that you've got some fluid in the line before you connect it. And you can use this hand pump here to pump this hand pump. You pump away and that will force fluid into the line. If you can't force fluid into the line, then if you disconnect it down here, put it to one side, pump a bit of fluid through so it's coming out of the end of the pipe, put your finger over the end and push it back in again and give it a couple of squeezes, you'll probably find that you're okay. One of the other common problems that people sometimes come across is that they're using the hand controller but nothing's happening. If that's the case, then the likelihood is that the timer switch for the 24/7 timer has been accidentally switched into the on position. Make sure that's off. You might also find in certain circumstances that the machine just fires up of its own accord, and that's because somebody's switched it to on timer and it's running off the timer. So if you're using it in manual mode, just make sure it's turned off and it should work normally. Again, I spoke earlier about the status light. The status light should be a nice solid green. If it's flashing, it indicates that the fluid is not getting into the machine or that the fluid's run out, and you'll need to have a look at that as I've previously mentioned, to sort that problem out. And the only other two things I think I should mention is that the machine is designed so that the gun must always be higher than the machine. If you have the machine higher than the gun, you can get a siphoning effect and the fluid will keep flowing even though you've turned the pump off, and you'll get dripping. You won't get dripping from the machine, but when the machine is running and the head is lower than the machine, it becomes very difficult to control the flake size accurately because the suction, the siphoning effect is being added to the strength of the pump. So always make sure that the head is higher than the machine. And finally, when you've got the pump set very low, so it's only just working, you might see a slight pulsing effect of the snow from the gun, and that's quite normal, it's nothing to be worried about. And what you'll find is that if you look at the gun, the snow is coming out in puffs and pulses, but if you look a metre or two away from the end of the gun, then the snow effect will look absolutely normal. And so that pulsing effect's only at very low pump settings. I think that's it. If you get any other problems, then don't hesitate to give us a call, and we will try and sort you out. So we've set the machine up. I've showed you how to use all the different controls, and the last thing I should mention is that as it says on this label here, the machine is only protected from the elements if you're using it outside, if the lid's closed. The other thing that you'll notice is that when you close the lid, you dramatically reduce the amount of noise that the machine makes. Okay, so we've finished with our SB200, and now we're going to pack it all away. So, I'm going to switch it off at the power switch. Off it goes, and we'll disconnect the booster cable. If indeed the booster cable is attached. If you haven't hired a booster cable, you won't have the booster cable attached. So remove that. We'll disconnect to the remote control. There we go. Now we're going to disconnect the fluid container. So push the blue ring in and pull on the pipe so it comes out. Disconnect this. There we go. You might get a little bit of fluid run out onto the floor when you're doing this. We'll pop that down there. Lid back on. Remove that. Now that just remains to now remove the connector for the pipe heater, the fluid connector, and switch air hose. Having disconnected all of that, we can pass that out to the flat. Pull the power cable back in. Close the flat. Fluid pipe assembly. There it goes. The timer hand controller. The timer hand controller comes with a little Ziploc bag, and if you can just pop it back in the bag for us. There we go, pop it in the bag. And seal it up. And the reason for that being that the hand controllers are susceptible to moisture. if we seal it up in the bag, that will stop any condensation or damp getting in there and upsetting the electronics. Then we've got our instructions. Pop those back in the box. And now we're going to start feeding the cable. The air hose. The air hose will fit in the box, but it is a little bit tricky. Put that down the middle.